Brittany Van Voorhees now. Brittany, we were actually just talking about that at 6, that if you hear thunder or you see lightning within 30 miles of a storm, you can see a strike. And unfortunately, those folks did.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You're outside, at the lake, let's say with, the three of us, right? We're on and we see the storm off in the distance, and then you see that lightning strike. That is close enough that we could be struck, even though it's not even raining where we are. So it's just the reality of the summertime. And the good news is that better lightning information has helped lower lightning deaths in the United States. But until that number is 0, we'll continue to keep you weather aware. Now, something that you will have to look out for tomorrow as well, as we are bringing back in that risk for so strong to severe thunderstorms in the afternoon. So whereas most of this week has just been about the heat and humidity, tomorrow will be heat and humidity first and then storm second, which also means we'll have plenty of instability to work with. Peak heat index values for the Charlotte area right around 3 o'clock today. 105 was the heat index. Notice it is still feeling like 90 degrees in Charlotte, still in the upper 80s, lower 90s for the majority of us, as we're not seeing again any of that rain cooled air. So that will help tomorrow afternoon. But before we get there, another day where we're expecting those heat index values to peak near 105, and that's why we are under a heat advisory for the second day in a row. I know we have said this so many times this week, but normal heat is low to mid 90s with feels like temperatures in about the mid to upper 90s. This is above average. Once we get past that threshold of about 102, 103, that's when heat exhaustion, heat cramps, and heat-related illnesses become more likely. You're more susceptible if you're immunocompromised already, you have respiratory concerns, cardiovascular issues, you're young, you're older. So again, just please be mindful of this, folks. Best thing to do is stay hydrated, avoid going outside for long periods of time if you can, stay in the AC, take frequent breaks in the shade. And I know this is the time of year that the kids are out and about at soccer camp, summer camp, whatever they got going on. Make sure they're aware of that too. And it's a great tool, especially for parents, aunts, uncles, to start to educate the kids on these concerns. So as they become older as well, that they also know the risk too. Here's satellite and radar right now, not showing any kind of rainfall activity, but tomorrow will be a different story. I am expecting right around lunchtime for a few isolated storms to pop up, but the best chance to see any kind of strong storm activity would be about 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. What we're going to be dealing with tomorrow, similar to a few weeks ago, if you remember, we had a lot of flooding potential in parts of Mecklenburg County, is what we call a sea breeze collision. So there will be a strong southeasterly wind trying to bring in the sea breeze from the coast on top of an isolated trough of low pressure that'll be right to our north and west. If those areas can converge and come together, we'll have more widespread storms, and they could do what's called train, which is essentially where they sit over the same spot and kind of reform new storms. However, a lot of these could break apart pretty quickly once we get to sunset, just because of the nature of not a lot of moisture in the atmosphere by the second half of the day, once essentially we've used up all of that instability. Thursday, kind of a rinse repeat forecast, but I don't expect as many storms as what we have for tomorrow. So again, heat is still number one. Heat index values tomorrow peaking in the mid 100s, but eventually we will see the lower 100s and upper 90s by this weekend. So here's your main impacts when it comes to the storm. So heat number 1, winds number 2, hail number 3, tornadoes not an issue, but we will look at a very isolated risk for flooding where of course those heaviest downpours do set up. Impacts for today, tomorrow, of course, we're still in the red and the purple, but eventually going down as we hit the second half of the week. So here's that 7-day forecast. Still keeping folks weather alert tomorrow with a high of 98. That would be the third day in a row, second day in a row that we see feels like temperatures near 105 or higher. And then again, as we hit the latter half of the week, heading into the weekend and even into next week as well, we're back settled into a more typical summer-like pattern. So we're looking at 90 instead of 98.